Hey guys, this is Cam from 15, joined by my Uncle Daryl, and we are here to give our thoughts on the MLB wild card round. Now, I typically don't do MLB videos on the channel. Like, I think I did like MLB videos like at the start of the season, then I stopped because there's so much you can.
I'm saying, 162 game season, man. Come on, that's
Yeah,
tedious. Um, the the baseball season for me really don't really get started until after the All Star break. Anytime before that, man, it's just a bunch of. Mm,
yeah. But this wild card round was actually really good. All of the games, all of the teams, it was really good. Now, with the exception of the Padres Mets series, pretty much all the other series were sweeps, but they
yeah,
were all unique in their own way. Just from the standpoint, there was just something in said game, whether it was game one or game two. It made things interesting. So the first series we're going to talk about is the Tampa Bay Rays versus the Cleveland Guardians, and the Guardians end up winning the series 2-0. In the first game, it was kind of now I when the playoffs started, it was like early Friday morning, so I totally didn't even catch this game for me. But it was practically just a pitching matchup. And honestly, that was what it was this entire series. Um, but in the first game, Shane Bieber won the matchup. And McClellan, he pitched in the loss. They pretty much both went 7 innings. I didn't catch much of this game, but really the only thing is they made mistakes off the home run ball. That was pretty much it. But other than that, the pitching was fine.
yeah. The big thing for me was the pitching. And you know how it is too. Pitching can be really great, but you make that one mistake. That one mistake can really do you in. Ramirez had a you know nice little home run. I believe it was the sixth inning,
Yeah, sixth
in
inning.
which, yeah, in which I mean, what are you gonna do when you put a pitch out over the plate? you just you swing really hard and just pray you got a lot of your elbow grease into it in which it goes over. And I gotta admit, man, once it left that bat, I'm pretty sure Ramirez knew it was gone. So that was the big deal for game one for the Guardians. They're no longer the Indians. I don't know how that went over in Cleveland, but now they're known as the Guardians. It's it's kind of, I guess it would take a while to for it to sink in.
Yeah.
Cubs beat the Guardians for the World Series in 2016.
Yeah. And then game two, man, I watched this entire, game two from start to finish. And this game two was crazy because this game two went 15 freaking
15,
innings.
15 innings. I was watching a little bit as well too. And unfortunately, I can only do so much being over here in Germany. So once it got to the 10th inning, for the most part, that was all she wrote for me, So and come to find out they went five more after that, you know. So I really didn't catch the end of it. I just had to wake up and catch the highlights
Yeah.
because I think go off until a good man. I had to get to work.
Yeah.
Stuck hang around for that one, But that's playoff baseball, though.
Yeah.
Playoff baseball is, if you're gonna get if as a hitter, if you're gonna get your stats, the time to do it is in the regular season because the postseason, unfortunately, with the way pitching and defense is nowadays in the postseason, I mean, most times if you can just get one run, that should do it for an entire game, and that's what happened in this scenario.
Yeah, this was again another pitching, crazy game here. Glass now and Tristan McKenzie were the starters, and they pretty much went as deep as they could. And then it
Yeah.
just came down to like, all right, whose bullpen is gonna crack first? And it was
Yep.
interesting too that Oscar Gonzalez the game-winning walk-off home run, but it was off of former Indian slash Guardians pitcher Corey Kluber.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm. And Corey, actually, after that after he left the Indians, he kind of rolled around a little bit, you know. So that's the way the cookie crumbles. But the Guardians did pull it out, and here they are in the NLDS.
Yeah. You have to give credit to where the Guardians are. It looked like the White Sox should have been the team to win the division, but they had their freaking issues. And for a team like the Guardians who don't really hit a home run, they hit home runs. They didn't hit a lot of home runs this season. I think they were like last in home runs, and they just play pretty much small ball. But you can also attribute that to the greatness of the manager, which is Terry Francona. They just got a good staff over there. You know, they have guys that I haven't even heard of, and they're pretty much a very young team, and they beat a very like really good Tampa Bay team. I mean, Tampa Bay's been good the last few years, so credit to them. I think it's must-watch TV with the Guardians and the Yankees because if you remember way back in the regular season, there was that issue with the fans and the Guardians players where fans were throwing stuff at the players, and that started a whole beef and everything. So I'm definitely gonna be watching that series. That's gonna be a very interesting series to watch. I guess prediction wise for that series, the Yankees should win, but the way the Guardians, if they pitch like they did in this series, it's gonna be very tough for the Yankees to win. I don't think Aaron Judge gonna be hitting a lot of home runs like he was in the regular season.
Well, the great part about the Guardians, and this is one of the reasons why, especially back in the '80s, I really hated the St. Louis Cardinals, is because they play playoff baseball basically throughout the entire year. Small ball, as it were. Get hits, swing for contact, not for home runs. Have your pitchers go at least 6 innings, keep the ball down in the strike zone, and get the opposing team to hit a lot of ground balls. That's the way the Guardians played. They've done it from game one, and it doesn't seem like not too much has changed, other than the fact that obviously now it's playoff time and pitchers are a little bit more focused and they're opening up the scouting report to see what they can do about these players that they're pitching against. Now the Yankees, that's gonna be a tough call, man, because the Yankees, from the rooter to the tutor, can really hit the baseball. So it's gonna be a really nice dichotomy of the long ball versus small ball, big bats versus contact hitters. So we'll see. On the other hand, I like the Yankees because I think that they have enough hitting to get at least 3-4 runs, which in a series against the Guardians, it'll be a detriment to them. So I do like the Yankees.
Yeah, the only thing with the Yankees, I know he's not as dominant as he once was, but I guess Aroldis Chapman, he's not even on the playoff roster right now because he missed a mandatory workout.
Yeah, they took him off that roster, I think, right before the playoffs started. But honestly, ever since again when he was with us, when he was with the Cubs, I think the Cubs blew his arm out. Personally, I think and he hasn't been the same since that series. So it doesn't shock me not one bit. So, but I still think the Yankees are up to the challenge. I'm pretty sure they can get 3 to 4 runs against the Guardians, which it should be enough to beat this team.
Yeah. The next American League series that was in the wild card round was the Seattle Mariners ending their playoff drought and getting back to the playoffs for like the first time in a long time. And they went up against the Blue Jays, and they actually, surprisingly, they swept the Blue Jays. You would think with the offensive firepower the Blue Jays had, they would probably win the game or win the series. But no, Seattle from game one, they just freaking took the game by storm. And obviously, if you're the road team, because all these wild card games, the road team, they were always on the road. They didn't go back to the opposing city for game three. They in the first game, they just got out to a 3-0 start and pretty much held the Blue Jays scoreless for all that entire game.
Yeah, never looked back. Also, Guerrero for the Blue Jays talked a little bit of trash before that series, talking about how great they are and how they're going to dominate. And I mean, again, it's just like, baseball playoffs are totally different than any of the other playoffs. Is because there's so much that go into scouting, and the Seattle Mariners can flat out pitch. That's the one thing that I can tell you that they do probably better than any other team in the playoffs. They can pitch. So they shut them out. Now, granted, game 2 was a little bit different.
Yeah.
They had to come back to get that. It was a little bit more in the Blue Jays' wheelhouse. I think that both of them, I think they had to score double digits in order to win that game. But that was a great game as well too. But the Seattle Mariners found it enough to overtake them and win the series.
Yep. In game 1, Luis Castillo, the pitcher from the Reds that the Seattle Mariners traded for, went 7.1 innings. He, again, good for them. They even signed him to an extension, I believe. Again, Julio Rodriguez, he finds a way to get on base. He's like their new Ken Griffey Jr., their future superstar that they signed to like a 12-year contract. Seattle, honestly, as an Angels fan, I'm looking at it and I'm like, and we'll talk about game 2, but as an Angels fan, I'm like, that should be us right now, especially with the good start we had at the start of the season. But of course, the Angels have nothing to do because they failed to, get the upper hand. It was supposed to be the division between the Angels and the Astros, but hey, now it's going to be between the Seattle Mariners and the Houston Astros. But going to game 2, that was a wild game, and I legitimately thought, okay, this game is over. Blue Jays are going to go on to game 3, and we're going to get a probably a good one. The Blue Jays, they pretty much got up on top. At one point they were up 8-1, and
I was nothing. I thought
8-1.
Okay.
And they gave up 7. The Blue Jays somehow erased a 7-run deficit and came back to beat the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
And the inning that they just went absolutely crazy. I literally changed the channel. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch a college football game. I'm gonna get ready to watch the next MLB playoff game. And next thing you know, I changed back to the channel and I changed it back to the part of the game where the Mariners actually pulled the comeback off. And that was mostly due to George Springer and Bo Bichette running into each other in the outfield. I still do. This is the one thing about baseball I never understand when I watch. Why does a shortstop have to go all the way out into the outfield when the outfielders are already there and he tries to make a play on that? And I'm like, let the outfielder handle that so instances where you bump into each other like that don't happen. George Springer got taken out of the game, and pretty much by the time the Seattle Mariners took the lead, they had complete momentum, and the entire building in Toronto was just dead. The team was just absolutely dead. And at that point, if you can't beat a team up 8-1, you deserve to lose.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Luckily for the Mariners that it was a 8-1 lead, not early.
Yeah.
But
they started to get back. Yeah, they started to get back in the game in the 6th inning, and they cut it to a 8-5 lead.
Right. They had time. Now it would have been different that if after that 6th inning, if it was still 8-1, it might have been a little bit more of a uphill climb. But the Mariners, the Blue Jays jumped out early, and the Mariners had time to get back. So that's where the pitching comes in. The pitching comes in. They came in. I believe they had pretty much started using the bullpen right around the 4th, maybe 5th inning. I want to say.
Yeah, Kevin Gausman, he went 5 2 innings. He gave up 4 earned runs.
Yeah. So once that bullpen got in, for the most part, man, that's when the game got interesting because it got lights out. Actually, the challenge for the Mariners was to ensure that they don't get anything else. And the Mariners, that bullpen did the job, to allow the hitters to chip away at the lead. Yeah. And Toronto really couldn't do much else to get more than the 9 runs that they got.
Even then, the bullpen's got to do a better job and hold on to that lead.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, it was a tale of two different bullpens. The Blue
Yeah,
Jays bull sucked, and the Mariners bullpen, which has been solid ever since the All Star break, um, pretty much shut them down. Now they did give up one run, but that was pretty much it. they they closed the deal, and that's what a bullpen is supposed to do in the postseason.
yeah. Um, and you would think even too, there was a part in the game where Whit Merrifield, the Blue Jays player, he got hit in the helmet.
Yeah.
And you thought, okay, that's gonna probably fire up the Blue Jays. They're gonna be like, all right, that's it, we're winning this game.
Mm-mm.
Nope.
Nope.
So
In fact, it more kind of fired up the Mariners. If anything,
yeah,
just they pretty much just let the Blue Jays know that we're not taking any of the crap y'all giving. You tell Vlad that when we send y'all home packing, that next year, shut up.
yeah. Seattle Mariners, they somehow won. That was probably one of the craziest playoff games I've saw with the Mariners coming back. But credit to the Mariners. For a team that was pretty much laughed at for not making the playoffs of the year now, the Angels can hold that spot. What is it? They got back to the playoffs and they built their team the way they built it, and now they're pretty much playing the division rival, and they have a good opportunity to knock off the Astros now. I'm still gonna go with the Astros because they're the best team in the AL. But I could see Seattle maybe taking one, maybe two games. I don't know. The best of series that the NLDS are. I
It
don't
should.
seven.
I can't imagine this being. I think it should be 7.
I'll look it up actually.
Yeah, I'm looking now. No, it's 5.
Okay, it's 5. Okay.
Yeah.
So I could potentially see maybe Seattle getting a game in Seattle, maybe 2. I don't know, but I got Houston winning this fairly easy. If anything, they should win the series 4-1.
Yeah, I gotta admit, Houston has been the best AL team all year long, 106, and I think they pretty much had a grip on that division early and never relinquished it.
Yeah.
In fact, I think they won the division by double digits, if I'm correct. Yeah, they did. They won the division by 16 games. So they pretty much coasted for a good portion of the second half of the season. So I don't really see Houston really relinquishing any of the AL just yet. I personally think it's still a collision course between them and the Yankees. So I'm gonna say that Houston will win this series, whether it be a sweep or 3-1. I can't fathom going 5 unless all the home teams win, which is not a shock.
Yeah.
But I like Houston to win this series too.
Yep. So we move on over to the National League, and we're getting with the
really interesting.
yeah. We got
Yeah.
the Philadelphia Phillies and the Cardinals in game 1. Philadelphia has a 6-run ninth inning to come back and pretty much upset and stun the Cardinals, which honestly you could say affected the Cardinals' performance in game 2. And I watched this ninth inning. I was like, okay, the Cardinals got the go ahead 2-run home run. And I'm like, their pitching has been good. They should freaking beat the Phillies here.
Yep.
And all it takes is just that one man getting on base, and then that next person getting on base, and then things get interesting. Now, the interesting part is the Cardinals put in their closer that I'm guessing from what the broadcasters were saying, he I guess the last few games of the season, he hurt his hand or something. And you could see that, yeah, they talked about that on the broadcast.
Really?
Yeah, he had some sort of scary incident where I think he almost broke his hand, but you could tell that maybe he probably should not have been in there because it seems like that injury must have been affecting him, whatever lingering effects it had. And clearly he wasn't, he was walking batters. And at some point I was watching the game and I was like, you need to get this guy out of here. If he loads the bases, get him out of there.
With something like that, that's lingering on me as a manager. I'd probably watch him at the first batter, and if he don't look good at the first batter, then yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pull him out. But I'll let him know that beforehand, dude. If you don't look, if it looks like this hand is bothering you, I'm gonna go ahead and yank him. But he didn't. So he pretty much left them, and then everything just snowballed from there. You know how baseball is, So I mean, baseball is one of them sports where one mistake, man, can just be a snowball effect that you just can't recover from, and that's exactly what happened to the doggone Cardinals in game one. Not that I'm sad to see it, because I'm not a Cardinals fan.
Yeah. Personally, I would have taken him out the moment he walked the batter to load the bases.
Yeah. So I would have taken him. I would have watched him for the first batter. I mean, if he didn't look good for the first batter, then chances are he wouldn't have looked good. He wouldn't have looked any better for the second, especially with something that's going on with his pitching hand.
Yeah. And it was just absolutely crazy. So credit to the Phillies for winning that game. I still can't believe that. And then pretty much in game two, because of the effect that game one had on the series, pretty much the Phillies pretty much got a fairly easy W in St. Louis. Bryce Harper hit a 2-run shot. No, Harper hit it. Harper hit a 2-run hit a homer, and then Kyle Schwarber hit a sac fly, and that was pretty much all the scoring that they got.
That was all they need, because Aaron Nola was lights out, dude.
Yeah.
Nobody touching him this day. And I mean, everything he pitched was just on point. I mean, he didn't, and he attacked all the batters. His pitch count stayed decently low, so that he can actually, hit the later innings of the game. But I mean, the only thing I can say is he was Hall of Fame dominant.
Yeah,
that's the best way to say it. He was Hall of Fame dominant, and after the game one, I mean, there was really nothing the Cardinals could do. I mean, it was.
Yeah, and even if we go back to game one of the for the Cardinals, Jose Quintana, he only went 5.1 innings pitched, and he was actually dealing that game. And the Cardinals actually took him out a lot earlier than just letting him, stay out there and continue to pitch good. Heck, even if you want to, go ahead.
Took him out there 3-0. And at the time they took him out, they were up 3-0. And then there was really, I mean, he did get in trouble in the sixth, but I didn't think that was trouble. I think he could have got out of it. But most times in playoff baseball, managers second guess themselves with the pitchers who are actually doing pretty well. So,
and for the Phillies in game one, Zach Wheeler, he also pitched really good too. He went 6.1 innings pitched, 2 hits only. But in game two, the Phillies pretty much got those 2 runs. The offense for the Cardinals was absolutely non-existent. At least they weren't like, well, we'll talk about the Mets series. At least they weren't that desperate like the Mets were yesterday, when they had to actually make sure they had to check the dang pitcher to see if he was cheating or something.
Man, come on, man. Buck show up, man.
We'll talk about it.
Okay, all right, we'll get to it. Go ahead.
They end off, just beating the Cardinals, end off, I guess, the season of trying to have Adam Wainwright, Pujols, and Molina try to win, I guess, one more chip before they all retire. But the Phillies sorry,
that wouldn't happen this year, regardless.
Oh yeah,
no.
So,
because I mean, the Dodgers been and I know we'll talk about it, but it's going to take a heavy load to beat the Dodgers.
Yeah, right now I think we can all say the Dodgers are probably the favorites to go to the World Series this year now.
Yeah, because I mean, outside of maybe, honestly, I just in a National League.
Yeah.
I mean, the Padres, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure. The Padres, I mean, on paper, got a shot.
Yeah. So this loss ends Rainwright's, Pujols, and Molina's careers. They're all good for their own individual reasons. Wainwright was a dominant pitcher. Molina was a good catcher. Albert Pujols, he was dominant in his prime, and then he came over to the Angels, and then he just stole money from us. But whatever.
Yeah.
Only year
Well,
he was.
he didn't steal the money. I mean, you gonna give me you give me money, I'm gonna take it. You
Yeah,
know.
I blame that more on our owner, which I'm happy that he's going to be selling the team.
Yeah, man. That was just a bonehead move. That was just a move just to put butts in the seats.
Oh, yeah. No, that's what happens when you have an owner that only cares about money. But thank goodness, Artie Moreno is finally selling the team. So
Oh,
hopefully I get a Steve Ballmer or Joe Lacob type of owner. Maybe Steve
maybe,
Cohen.
maybe.
So anyways, we went on to the last series, which was absolutely shocking. It was by far the best series of the playoff round, but not good for all the Mets fans and everything. Yeah, now in game one, Scherzer goes on. You're like, okay, Scherzer should be dominant. This man gives up 7 runs.
4 homers. I mean, the homer that Manny Machado hit was you just dropped your jaw. First of all, you drop your jaw when Scherzer has that kind of a game. I think that's the first time or second time that in the playoff game, one pitcher's given up 4 home runs. The second time in MLB history. So I'm just like, the Padres bats just came alive. And dude, man, it was just
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention. Phillies will be playing the.
Say that again.
I said forgot to mention this, but before we move on to this series and talk more about it. Phillies play the Braves this series.
You can beat the Braves.
The Phillies have a good chance to beat the Braves, but I think I'm just gonna go with the Braves. Just from the standpoint, I think they have slightly better pitching, and they have better defense because that's one of the issues with the Phillies. They have the offense, but and they have quality pitching. I do know they don't have as good as defense, and their bullpen isn't that good. But I could perfectly see the Phillies upsetting the former World Series champions and beating them. But I think I'm gonna go with the Braves, and we're gonna have a rematch of the NLCS.
I think we're going to see the Braves as well too. The Braves, have been there recently, been there before, and the Braves got bigger fish to fry than the Philadelphia Phillies. So I think they'll go ahead and try to dispatch them early because what's next for the Braves is more than likely going to be the Dodgers.
Yeah,
because and I mean, hopefully this year Kuna won't do anything stupid, you know. just hope he don't do anything. Just hope he don't do anything stupid, So, but yeah, I honestly think the Phillies will be competitive. They might get it. They might get a game.
yeah,
But I think the Braves probably wind up going on in this series.
yeah. But continuing, but like I said, Scherzer just getting knocked for 7 runs. He only went 4 innings.
But them Padres bats, man. I mean, you got to give them credit. Them Padres bats are something else. So I mean, game was it game 3?
Game 2. So moving on to game 2, DeGrom,
game 2 was all Mets.
Yeah, and hey, you did what they had to do. Originally, it looked like game 3 was going to be DeGrom pitching, but no, they had to actually speed up. Be like, DeGrom, you got to go out today because
especially after what happened game 1.
Yeah.
They go to DeGrom game 2, and DeGrom was DeGrom, But I mean, for me, DeGrom is the best pitcher in baseball. But and that's exactly what he showed. But after what happened in game 1, I'm sure that if the Mets had a 1 game 1, they probably wouldn't have came with DeGrom game 2.
Yeah, they would have went. They were originally going to go Bassett game 2.
Right.
And even if they had lost that in game 3, they would have went DeGrom. But because the roles reversed, they had to go Bassett game 3. And then the Padres, they just got 2 early runs in the game and then got a run in the 4th and then the 5th. And then they pretty much finished whatever chance the Mets had off in the 8th inning. But the thing is, Bassett sucked, and it was funny because the comments before Game 3 was he's like, "Yeah, New York's a tough place to play." Oh
Yeah,
yeah, sure it does, because you're the one that was responsible for losing the game for them. The
yeah.
the Mets offense, you know, wasn't really it was quiet for the most part. It didn't do anything at all.
Well, I mean, Musgrove pretty much
Yeah. He pitched
Musgrove
the game.
Musgrove made sure they stunk up the joint. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do, right? As a pitcher, make
Yeah.
everyone that you pitch to look really bad. And he made people look so bad that Buck Showalter had to get the umpires to see if he had a foreign substance on his body. To me, that's how bad Musgrove made them look. I mean, they went under his hat, behind his ears. They went. It was just, for me, it was just pathetic. It
Yeah.
was just.
When I saw that, because I actually had to rewind, I'm like, wait, what's going on? Why are they what are they doing? I had to rewind it. I'm like, and then I find out, oh, they're checking it. I'm like, that is so damn desperate for you guys
That
because you're
was
just
very,
getting your butts kicked.
very desperate. That was very desperate on Showalter's part. Musgrove was dealing. I mean, he was dealing. He had extra spin on his curveball, extra spin on the slider. I mean, the pitcher. Now I gotta admit, if it's the first time you see Joe Musgrove pitch, then you'll probably say, "Oh man, come on, he got to be putting something on that baseball, something." But
Yeah, people
it
were
comes
like people on social media were alluding to the fact that his ears were red. It was probably cold in New York,
probably.
you
Now I
know?
gotta admit, the one clip I did see, the ears were pretty shiny,
Yeah.
but they touched it. They touched the ear and found nothing. So I'm just like, okay, man, yo, this is really desperate.
Yeah.
And it.
And the
I
Mets,
mean,
yeah, it's bad. The Mets were predicted to go to the World Series this year, and they're not. They're like, I think, the first MLB team to win 100 games and lose in the wild card round.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I saw that stat on Twitter and I was like, wow, that's that's embarrassing. You
Yeah,
pretty much
that's in,
pay a lot of money to get all these players to join your team, and they're all good players, and you don't make it past the wild card round.
well, next time have your win the division.
Oh yeah, that's the thing about the Mets. They won the division, they wouldn't be in this predicament. They would be in the
Correct.
NLDS, but
Correct.
they lost key games. They got swept by the Cubs. I remember that series. I
Yeah,
was just looking at the scores. I'm like, wait, they got swept by the Cubs. They even beat DeGrom and Scherzer.
they
And
lost.
you
What
know,
was it? Oh, they lost a tiebreaker because obviously the Mets must have won
yeah,
the season.
the last series against the Braves pretty much swept them too.
Yeah,
And they at some point they had like 15 games on the division, and they should have won. You think, oh, they should win. A team should win up 15 games in division, but no, they
yeah.
choked it and they blew it away. And now
Started choking.
they got a lot of questions censored because DeGrom's a free agent going to this upcoming offseason. He might
Mm-hmm.
actually just leave.
Yeah, maybe,
And then,
maybe, but
yeah,
but all in all, DeGrom is going to command a hefty salary. Aaron Judge is going to command a hefty salary. Rumor has it that, or at least I saw it on ESPN, that the Mets are going to be in the Aaron Judge sweepstakes.
yeah.
So that would be pretty interesting. But at the same time, that's not the reason why they lost this series. I mean, they lost this series because of Joe Musgrove and oh golly, how can I forget his name? He was with the Cubs, Japanese pitcher.
Darvish.
Yeah, Yu Darvish. I mean, that's the reason why they lost.
Yeah, and I think you can also attribute the fact that Scherzer not having. I think you can also attribute the Scherzer not having the good start in Game 1 just threw it
That's
the entire series off.
when you come into the game and you're already up. You've been spotted 4 runs. I mean, dude, you're just like, oh, cool. I can settle down now. And Darvish, I believe, went 7 masterful innings, only giving up 1 run.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was all he needed.
And it's funny because in Game 1, because they wore the black jerseys, and typically what I've heard, I guess, in Mets culture is don't wear the black jerseys. They're like cursed jerseys.
Oh, really?
They wore the black jerseys game one, and I'm like, oh, maybe that's a reason why too.
Mm,
So
well, they didn't lose because of black jerseys. They lost because Scherzer,
yeah,
threw pitches out over the plate to big time hitters.
yep. Well, moving on to the Padres before we end the video. Padres Dodgers, a rematch of the 2020 series back in the COVID year.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like my dad says, the Padres have nothing to prove unless they actually beat the Dodgers for once, and you can't really call it a rivalry. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the Padres would be lucky. It would be a miracle if the Padres win. In my Clippers group chat, he's a Padres fan as well, and he's like, it would be an absolute miracle if we were beat the Dodgers. In all the
If this
regular season games I've watched the
series,
Padres, huh?
I was going to say, if this was a 7-game series, I could honestly lean towards the Padres. I really could. I could.
Even in a 7-game series, I give them no chance.
But a 5-game series,
Yeah, the Padres have to come up with some miracles, but
they'd have to really jump off early.
Yeah.
And they're going to come out with Musgrove game 1, which is actually good.
I don't think they are.
No, they're coming out with Musgrove game 1, I was told.
Really?
I thought that's what they said.
No, Clevenger's going.
What, Clevenger game 1?
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Yeah. I watch not all of the Padres Dodgers regular season games, but the Dodgers had their numbers. They had. Listen, my thing is this: this should be a sweep by the Dodgers. Fairly easy. They have better hitting, better pitching. Simple as that. They're the better team. The Padres be lucky to get one game. That's how much confidence I have in the Padres.
Series, I think the urgency is a little higher, so I think the Dodgers will come in a little bit more focused. In a 7-game series, you can probably let your hair down a little bit, just see how a team can react. But on the flip side, you can actually see something about a team in a 7-game series that might actually allow you to win the series. So, I'll still go with the Dodgers. I would have went with the Dodgers either way, but I think the Padres would have had a better chance if it was a 7-game series, not a 5-game series.
Yep. Well, we're out of time, guys. Catch you guys in the next video. If you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like, put in the comment section, and we'll probably be back for the LDS series recap as well. But till then, guys, peace.
Later.